Hey friends, it is Sheryl from Tutoring with Sheryl, and I'm stopping in today to talk to you about key things that you should be looking for if you're working with a reading expert and you're wondering what progress should be looking like. Now, here's the thing. If your child is working with an expert or even the kid down the road that's in high school, I want you to be looking for progress. And sometimes progress feels really slow. And I also want to reassure you that progress, even if it's slow, it's still progress. Reading growth is not something that is going to happen the same for every child. It's like saying that every child is going to walk on the same day, at the same time, at the same age. It's just not going to happen. Okay. And a reading expert is going to know that, and they are going to work to build the skills and the steps that your child needs based on how their brain learns. And as they are working with their child, they get to know your child. They get to know what do they like to read about or learn about. What can they do and what can't they do? How often does your child need to have breaks? Does your child need more of a game-based approach or more of we're just going to use actual books? So what is it that your child needs? Okay. So I've talked a lot about this in the past with my parents. I haven't done a lot of recordings on it, but I'm going to try to build this library up so that you understand that before fluency and comprehension, your child has to have some skills. And if your child's even in second or third grade and they're weak in any of the areas that I'm going to talk about, your child's reading expert should be going backwards, okay, not forwards, not saying, well, we're going to work on this because next year you're going to need it. That's a great idea, but guess what? If your child's really struggling in the classroom, they need something different. Okay. So let's just talk about reading in general. Okay. Because the focus of this conversation is about reading. They need phonologic and phonemic awareness. So they've got to be able to hear and recognize the sound symbol relationships. And your child also needs to be able to decode and have good word recognition skills. Okay, and that all comes with practice. That's not something that your child wakes up knowing how to do. You didn't know how to do that. You were taught that, right? So these foundational skills are critical when we're working with struggling readers. So as you start to see an increase in their knowledge of the letters and their knowledge of the sound symbol relationships, that's progress, right? Or if you put down a simple single syllable with a short letter sound in the middle, they can actually decode it and know what it says. Or if you give them a sight word like the word R, A-R-E, they can quickly recognize it and tell you what it is. That would be progress. Please know that small gains lead to big breakthroughs. So early progress is not maybe going to be super noticeable. But if they can do, like I said, faster sound recall, they have fewer letter reversals, or they have fewer mix-ups as they're reading, and they become quicker at attempting words, even if they're not quite right, they're getting better attempts at that. Those are small wins. And then you can quickly help them. Oh, I like how you tried that word. Let's go back. Let's do this together. And then you take them whatever that word is, and it's going to be more meaningful growth to them too, because they at least attempted it. Because a lot of my reluctant readers don't even want to attempt something. They just don't want to do it. They'll just guess or they'll skip. So if they're attempting it, that is a small win. Now, mastery matters more than speed. It's so hard sometimes to listen to that really, really slow reading that an early reader is giving you, even if they're a fifth grader or a sixth grader, and they are just learning these skills because they haven't mastered them yet. Give them time to go through it. I made a video, I believe last week, talking about like you can do echo reading, where you can read a sentence and show where you're at, and then have the child point as they read it back to you. And you're going to think, oh, they're just saying what I said. Well, they might be, but if they're pointing at the words as they're going, chances are they're probably doing it correctly. So that's another small win. Struggling readers need more repetition. I'll say the word right, and practice. And it's children who have dyslexia, ADHD, language processing difficulties, they need explicit instruction. They're also going to need to have different approaches. And sometimes, for me, I'm online and I'm doing an online approach. Sometimes working on the screen doesn't work. They need to literally write it down, or they need to literally have the paper in front of them and highlight. Those things could actually happen. So if the tutor's asking you to print something off, please do it. There's going to be a lot of review. Maybe there's a lesson and you're like, oh, they did the same lesson 3 times in a row. Well, that was intentional, and it is really important for that long-term success. So going quickly is not always the answer. Slowing it down is. Progress should be monitored, okay? So a reading expert like myself is going to consistently be observing and adjusting the instruction based on how's your child responding? How many errors are they having? What are those error patterns looking like? What are their reading behaviors? Are they getting more excited about it? Are they still not excited about it? Are they attempting more words? Are they having fewer errors? So that instruction changes as your child's needs change. And reading confidence grows alongside the skills that they're learning. So students begin to understand how reading works. When they start to understand that, this is what happens. Their confidence goes up and their anxiety drops, okay? And so that's going to, like I said, lead to greater participation, and they're not going to shut down as much. You should see fewer tears, okay? Especially if you've got a student who just breaks down. Because listen, if you were in a course and you were learning something new and it was really hard, you might be feeling the same way. So we really need to be empathetic towards our children. And yeah, we might be frustrated, but we need to find ways to work around that. Reading improvement shows up beyond reading time, okay? If you're seeing significant or even small changes in their spelling, in their writing, in their use of vocabulary, in understanding vocabulary and reading the words off the page. Maybe they are seeing an improvement in their independence of their homework. You're not having to sit by them all the time. Maybe they have a student or, a teacher's aide or a paraprofessional at school, and that person is with them all the time. And it was 100% of the time, and now they're down to 60%, 50%, 40% just when they need it. That is a sign of growing independence and improvement in whatever the area is that your child was working on. And then another one is willingness to read aloud. Who wants to read aloud when it's hard, right? So again, always provide that safety net for them. Say, it's okay if you make a mistake. I'm here to help you. And then consistency is key. Having regular structured sessions over time is going to provide the best results. Reading growth is not something that happens in a bubble, okay? And it's also not necessarily linear, it's cumulative. So it takes all of the experiences and then it boosts your child up a little bit like a balloon might be raised in the air. So that consistency is going to help them learn the skills so that they're no longer needing to hear it continually being repeated, but they have this automaticity to the reading. And a reading expert is going to teach parents what to look for, okay? And so you're going to have these raw conversations, and your reading educator should be able to tell you, well, this is where your child was at, this is where they're at now, and so that's pretty significant gains. They're going to give you things that are going to support reading at home without overwhelming you. If they know that your family is so busy and there's like 6 kids and you guys don't have time to sit down to do any reading, they're probably not going to say, I want you to read, 30 minutes a night. But they are going to give some suggestions on some things that you can do. And when your child is ready to move on to the next skill, they're going to let you know, hey, we're moving on to this. And that's another win in my book for reading improvement. Please remember that reading progress is not about, sitting down every night and spending hours and hours and hours on skills that are going to help your child to perform better. It's really about bridging the skills gap from what they don't know to what they don't know. You're introducing the concepts, you're teaching the concepts, and then your child is then understanding the concepts. And in my practice, we're really not going to move on until they've mastered that skill, or I know that I'm going to come back to it. So reading progress is going to show up in a lot of different ways. I'm really going to encourage you to go to my website. Look, I do have some free resources there for you, and I've got some printable things that you can use, you can download, or I also have some digital things that you can use on your own to help your child with letter recognition. You can practice the sounds. And so make sure that you head over to tutoringwithsheryl.tutorbird.com and then use the contact page if you are looking for support and you think that I'm a good fit for your child. Let's start the conversation today.